If you were to survey 1,000 people and ask them to name a good Christian man or woman, you would likely hear responses like Billy Graham, Mother Teresa, and C.S. Lewis. People may tell you about their pastor, their Sunday school teacher, or their sweet little old grandma who took them to church every Sunday and prayed before each meal. But there is one name that you are unlikely to hear. The name of the Milwaukee cannibal himself, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was one of the most notorious serial killers of his time. Between the years 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer raped, murdered, and dismembered 17 men and boys. He was a murderer, a pedophile, a rapist, a necrophiliac, and a cannibal. Dahmer pled guilty and was sentenced to 16 terms of life in prison. In the year 1992, Dahmer would be transferred to the Columbia Correctional Institution. He spent his first year in prison in solitary confinement for the safety of himself and his fellow inmates. After a year in solitary, Dahmer would be transferred to a less secure area of the prison. On November the 18th, 1994, Dahmer would be bludgeoned to death by a fellow inmate, who said God told him to do it. Many were pleased to hear about Dahmer's death. This is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer that we know. We know the story of his murders, his trial, his incarceration, and eventually his death. But something happened to Jeffrey Dahmer between his incarceration in 1992 and his death in 1994. The Milwaukee cannibal experienced redemption. After being transferred to solitary and placed in a less secure area of the prison, Dahmer requested something: a Bible. He began to study the Bible and soon came to believe it. Dahmer, per his father's advice, also began to study books from the Institute for Creation Research that focused on creationism. Jeffrey Dahmer became a born-again Christian while imprisoned for the murder of 17 men. May of 1994, Dahmer would be baptized by Roy Ratcliffe and would continue to meet with Ratcliffe on a weekly basis. Dahmer would ask questions and Ratcliffe would answer them and point him to Scripture. That was until 6 months later when Jeffrey was killed. So where is Dahmer now? He couldn't possibly be in heaven. Heaven can't possibly be filled with men like Jeffrey Dahmer that have killed and raped innocent human beings. But that's exactly what heaven is. It's filled with sinners. Jeffrey was not good. He was a sinner. But if we cannot believe that Jeffrey Dahmer was forgiven, if we cannot believe that he was washed white by the blood of the Lamb, then we don't understand God's grace. We don't understand forgiveness. Jeffrey displayed sincere penitence when he had absolutely nothing to gain. Jeffrey Dahmer was a murderer. He was a cannibal and a rapist. But he's been given a new name: holy, righteous, and redeemed. And Jeffrey Dahmer is home now.